Joining me now to discuss is Congressman Roger Williams. He chairs the House Committee on Small Business. Congressman Roger Williams, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
Now, tell us what prompted you to have this recent hearing we just had, combating the CCP's threats to America's small businesses. What kind of impact is this having on everyday Americans?
Well, it's a real serious situation we have. We have the CCP coming into our country and buying our intelligence, buying assets, buying land, buying businesses, and they're offering outlandish prices for a lot of this. And people may never see this kind of money again, so they sell to the Chinese, and all of a sudden they have one more company, they have one more intellectual property, and you know, the Chinese are not our friend, and we need to do something about it. And we heard some unbelievable stories how the Chinese would come in and buy companies, pay them a little bit more than they might be worth, but then all of a sudden take these people out that were told they could stay in their company and run it. So it's a serious issue and one we have to be aware of. And there's a lot of real estate around this country that the Chinese own right now that they shouldn't own. So it's a situation we got to look at. They own 31 million acres of our food supply. So we've got to fix it. We've got to be aware, and at the same time create a business situation in America like we have with President Trump that has lower taxes, less regulations, so people don't have to sell. They can build a business and pass it on to their family and not have to sell to the Chinese for equity.
Right, and these aren't just regular Chinese people. These are agents from the Chinese Communist Party we're talking about. But even for the Chinese nationals here in the U.S., according to a 2017 national security law, they are used by the CCP to be agents. If upon request, they have to turn over any data to authorities. But one of the witnesses we heard in that hearing, Sean Murphy, shared how a Chinese-controlled entity ultimately forced his company out of its own project. Let's take a look.
It was lawfare, and effectively they were mocking us and our judicial system. They hired 6 law firms, 2 in New York, 1 in Los Angeles, and 3 locally in Cheyenne. And they exploited relationships between their Wyoming lawyers and Wyoming state legislators.
Congressman, this is obviously ultimately the CCP weaponizing the U.S. legal system against Americans. What kind of tools would be available for small businesses so that they can remain competitive?
Well, I think that, you know, that's the thing. Small business has a disadvantage because they can't hire a lawyer. They don't have the money for the lawyers and representation. And I think one of the best things we can do, quite frankly, as I said earlier, is to let businesses make money. I mean, we're on the right track now with the Trump tax cuts, but let these businesses make money so they don't have to sell out in need and so forth. But we have to be aware of what these people are doing. We have to come up with something that protects our intellectual property and our real estate from the purchase of these Chinese. And that's what we're doing to discuss in Congress is how can we do it, but also be fair about it to the landowners.
Another witness spoke on why this is such a pressing issue. Let's roll that clip as well.
What appears purely commercial today may become critical to national security tomorrow. They can emerge through investments, supply chain exposures, intellectual property theft, or commercial relationships that appear beneficial at first but create long-term strategic vulnerabilities. For many small businesses, the threat does not present itself as coercion. It presents itself as an opportunity.
Congressman, do you have a real-life example here that demonstrates this? What would it empower small businesses to identify these opportunities as threats?
Well, that's a great question. That's one of the things we talked about is sometimes they don't, but it's a simple thing. I mean, they have to have their eyes wide open on this, and if the deal's too good to be true, they may want to check it out. But mainly, the fact of the matter is it may be too good to be true, but also they are squeezed out and they lose any equity in the company they have or lose the opportunity to manage it, as many cases are told. So it's taking your time. It's to sort through possible a lie, sort through something that could be, like I say, taking their livelihood away, not realizing it, thinking that they still had a stake in it, and making sure that people, again, I get back to this is important, that we allow businesses to make a lot of money. Because they make a lot of money, they may not need to sell, and they can build equity and pass it on their generation. It can be a generational gift to their kids.
That's right. You know, one major point here that arose is that the economic security is national security. We've heard that over and over again from the administration, but let's take a look.
It's no secret that the PRC's dominates the supply chain for important items like pharmaceutical precursors, which we saw on full display during the COVID pandemic. Why it is in our national interest to onshore manufacturing for strategic techs and their parts.
The total amount and value of the rare earth minerals we import is less than the price of an F-35, and yet it supports more than 20% of American economic activity. If you take pharmaceuticals, 90% are fermentation-based API, that is, antibiotics are made in China.
Congressman, what actions is your committee, as chairman, considering to address this concern?
Well, I think we need to reduce regulations. We need to make it easier to take advantage of the assets we have in America, and cut regulations so we can get immediately to it and begin to build our inventories and begin to build our net worth and our pricing structure, and then hopefully one day we control the market.
And the last thing I want to get to here is President Trump's expected to visit China in May. What do you hope to see the president address as far as the threats posed by the CCP?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I think he'll bring it up, but I think he wants fair trade, which we don't have. He wants to make sure they understand that if it's not going to be fair, they're going to pay for it. He also needs to remind China that we are becoming to take the lead in a lot of the areas that they have been in leadership on. So I think he's going to have a great chance, as he does so well, to sell the American economy to them and let them know they got a competitor that can stay with them and can beat them. And we want fair trade, and if we can get that, the world will be a lot better.
All right, Congressman Roger Williams, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today.
Thank you.